Hello again, whiskey fans. We're here with a whiskey I've been at least looking forward to reviewing for a bit. The new offering from Woodford Reserve, the Double Oaked. This is their first standard offering, their first, non-special kind of offering addition to their line. Let me see, give you the whole shot of the whole bottle. It's in the same kind of bottle as your typical Woodford, of the stylish, well-known bottle with the double oaked on the side. So this is probably the most exciting offering, bourbon offering since Maker's 46, and it's very similar to Maker's 46 in that this just like Maker's 46 is your typical Maker's Mark with an extra process. This is your Woodford Reserve with an extra process, which is they put it into a charred oak barrel. I don't know for how long, but presumably to get more oak flavor. And I'm going back and forth on this whiskey. In my kind of preparation, I even taped a review of this last night, and it was fairly negative. But then I tried it again. I had been smoking, and I thought maybe that had brought out some notes, because when I tried it again, I liked it more. Now this is $50. Your typical Woodford's $30, but this is $50, so it's rather high, and so we're going to keep that in mind. Woodford's known for its rye content. It's not extremely heavily rye, not certain like Bullet, but it's got a very spicy flavor with your typical sweet vanilla kind of oak notes that you get from our bourbon. It's a very balanced whiskey, and a very beloved whiskey with good reasons. One of my favorites. The smell, perfumey, as always. A little mint there somewhere. Maybe something sweet. And that's all I'm getting. Maybe a little oak back there, but the first taste without cutting. A lot going on, very busy. Let me try it again. I think initially and at the end you get your Woodford profile, and then really quickly behind that, which is spice, cinnamon, vanilla, maybe a little honey, and then this very strong oak comes up in the middle and very dominates, and it's a little astringent. It's not. The aftertaste is actually quite nice, but in the middle there you get a little bitterness there that I'm not a huge fan of. But I like this aftertaste, kind of creamy and so let's cut that. See if that won't take care of some of the bitterness. Open it up a little bit. Now the smell. Different things are coming out now. More of the sweet notes are predominating. That oak is now, I'm smelling it, but that may be because I've tasted it. Now the taste. Yeah, still a lot of stuff going on here. The oak is explosive. But that really dominates, and it's a little bitter. Behind it are some nice little flavors. You can get your typical Woodford notes in there. Not quite as astringent now, although I think it still needs a little bit more. This is a powerful whiskey. It's only 45.4, but that oak is so bitter that it requires a little more cutting. Still got a little bitter note, but now the oak is more pronounced. This is probably about where it needs to be. Strong tingling on the tongue. Big tingle. Makers would argue this is overaged, I think, based off of that. And in some ways, there's some harsh notes in here that suggest that in the extra 8 processing they've added, they may have went a little too far. The strength of the whiskey, and this is in some ways unfortunate, the strength of the whiskey is the Woodford base, which is very much there and is still very good. But you have a very flavorful, intense oak that is added upon that. And that oak is a little bitter. And so whereas this is a more flavorful whiskey than, say, your typical Woodford, but I think it lacks that perfect balance that Woodford has, where when you drink Woodford, it's a very pleasant drink. This is not as pleasant a drink. And honestly, if you had them both side by side, I'd probably drink the regular Woodford more. And again, it's $20 cheaper. Now, that was a nice swallow, actually. Some nice little peppers came out with the oaks. And again, the oak is not all bad. I mean, the oak flavor has some interesting stuff going on. Maybe some cocoa. It's very interesting. I mean, it's not all bad. I just think it's a little bit much. And this doesn't taste, again, knowing it's Woodford, I know it's Woodford, but I don't know if unlike, say, Maker's 46, if I would know it was Woodford if I didn't know it was Woodford. And again, I think the strength of this whiskey is very much the Woodford. But, ooh, nice swallow there. Now that was delicious. As the water got in there, kind of it opened up, and it was a little bit nicer. And that's what I say. I mean, this is quite an experience to drink. I'm going to pour a little bit more, and just cut it initially a little bit more. See if that doesn't allow me to describe this a little bit. Because you get the sense there's a really good whiskey in here, and that the oak is not as negative as. It's still there, but again, with it cut, it's not as bitter. And you get a little bit more of this kind of cocoa note. So it isn't bad. Overall, if you love Woodford like me, this is well worth trying, maybe occasionally getting. I will buy this again, but not frequently. This will not replace Woodford in my refrigerator or my whiskey den, and it shouldn't in yours either. But if you're a fan like me, it's well worth trying. Anyway, that's all I got. See ya.